Hey everybody, welcome to the fourth episode of ALB Chats. Today I have a very special guest, Ines. So Ines, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah, so Ines is, I think I've known her a couple years ago. She's a fellow content creator, young designer. I think she started the account What Archie School Does Not Teach You. It's a very long username. And ever since then, I think I've been working with her on certain events like MacCon, and then yeah, I'm happy to have her today as my guest. So I'll just give a little introduction. Basically, she is uh, from Australia, but she's now currently based in Australia, correct? And
Yes.
she is currently working on a book. I think later she'll share with us a book that is highly relevant to designers. Basically, how we each have our own potential, I think, to make change in our lives as well in the world. So
Yes.
I will be very happy to hear more about that. And yeah, I think I'll just let the floor to Ines to introduce herself and to share about why she is where she is right now and maybe her journey through architecture.
Well, thank you, Gabriel. Thank you so much for that introduction. It's such a pleasure to be here. Hello, everybody. Where should I start with my journey? My journey has been such a long journey, so many ups and downs, but maybe I could just start right at the start. So I did my bachelor's in architecture back in Vienna, in Austria. And back then it was quite clear that I'm studying architecture because I want to become an architect, right? So I want to design buildings. And I didn't think of architecture anything other than that. So then I completed my bachelor's and I got admitted at TU Delft University of Technology in Holland. And that just completely opened my brain. So I joined the study association, and in study associations they work on different projects, and that's why I find study associations so great, because you work with so many people, and it's quite interdisciplinary. So we did projects in concerning event curation and writing and graphic design. So it was this intersection of all these different things, and that just completely exploded my mind. And then I thought, hey, wait a minute. Actually, I don't want to become a conventional architect. Like, I don't actually want to design buildings. I think I was just wanting that because I thought that's what everyone does, right? We think when we study architecture, we need to become an architect, we need to design buildings. But that was like this massive aha moment for me, that that is not the case at all. That architecture is so much bigger than we think it is. And so it's not like this closed off bubble that is disconnected from other disciplines, but it really connects to, graphic design, neuroscience, psychology, events, writing. You can do so many things with it. So that's when I kind of developed this new goal of mine, that I wanted to expand the peripheries of architecture. I wanted to see what else it can be and do. That was kind of my new intention, and see where that would lead me. And then in the course of my master studies, I had a lot of clues as to what I should do after my masters, because I was quite stressed about it. I was like, oh my god, what am I going to do after my masters? I have to do this architecture thing, but actually I want to expand architecture, the means of architecture. So what is that going to be? And so as it is, because we always get clues, I did a visualization meditation. And in that meditation, it became quite clear to me that I wanted to combine architecture with kind of motivational content for architects and designers slash personal development. And the name came up, What Architecture School Doesn't Teach You. So, and that was like, yeah, wow, actually, I would love that. It's like quite a recognition inside of me. Ah, I mean, I have no idea how that's going to happen, but I would love to do that. And so I just held that intention inside of me without even knowing if it's possible. And that's like one thing I want to say already. Right now we doubt ourselves so much and our path in architecture, because we want it all figured out right away. But sometimes it's just enough, even just knowing, I don't want to go traditional architecture. I'm also interested in this field. I don't know how I'm going to make it happen, but I'm just going to hold in my mind that I want to do something in that direction, and just hold that intention, see what happens, because life will give you ways to steer you in that direction. And so in my case, it happened that way. I graduated, and I reached this massive 180-degree turn in my life. So I had this, long story short, I mean, it's a longer story in my book, but long story short here, I had this massive, like a crash, because it was with my ex and a really good friend of mine. It was just this huge clash that we had, the three of us. And so that really opened my eyes. Sometimes something happens in your life and it teaches you so much about yourself, and also about the world, also about other people. And it just completely changes your perception of who you think you are, of what you think the world is. And so from then on, from that point on, I told myself, you know what, I'm done with pleasing others. I'm done with letting society dictate what I should be doing with my life. I just want to follow my own heart. So this calling inside of me became so clear. I just don't want, I don't just want an architecture job that pays my bills, or that, I mean, or that, just gets me through the days. I actually want to do something really meaningful. And I know in my heart that so many of us feel that way. We all want to do really, really meaningful stuff. That's all in our hearts. And so I moved to Rotterdam, into a very small room, and I was in this dark, uncertain place. But I started writing. I thought, well, what is this? What architecture school doesn't teach? I'm just going to start writing and write down my ideas. And that, I tell you, that was like a
Mind
light,
blown. Yeah.
mind blowing. Because I sat down and the words just came out, and it was so much fun. It filled my days. I woke up in the morning, I was like, yes, another day. I can write more on that. I mean, back then I was quite shy, and I was very afraid about sharing my voice. So I did all this, websites, and I did this online blog, but I never posted anything because I was just so afraid of putting myself out there and sharing my voice. But it was okay, because for back then, it was just about, training my writing skills and just bringing my heart on paper. And then after a few weeks, I said, you know what, because I'm half Australian as well, I'm going to realize my dream that I've had for quite a while now. I'm going to move to Australia, because that's where the other half of my family is. And there's really cool architecture stuff going on here. So within the next month, I moved. And then things got really interesting, because, of course, this calling inside of me got louder and louder. But then on the one hand, I needed a job. I needed the money. I wanted something stable. So, on the other hand, I wanted the adventure. I wanted to make that leap. I wanted to start what architecture school doesn't teach you, whatever the fuck that would be. I had no idea. So on the one hand, job, safety. On the other hand, my own business, uncertainty. It was, wow. So I applied to all these different jobs, and I knew my heart wasn't in it, but I thought, well, I have to do this, right? Because that's what you do when you graduate. But I didn't get accepted to any of those jobs. And then in the end, one company did get back to me. It was a big corporate firm. And I said, oh my God, why did they get back to me? I really don't want to work for them, but I need the job. So I just went to the job interview, but it turned out to be so horrible. Such a nerve-wracking experience. So I arrived in the office, and I'm sure many of us experienced that. I mean, when you go to a job interview, your nerves are on the floor anyway, and you're so nervous, and you've practiced everything in your brain. So I got there, and they sat me down in a chair facing the room where they were interviewing another person for something. I mean, until today, I don't know if that was a job interview, but I literally saw this lady showing her portfolio. So I was like, oh my God, they are laughing. They are having the most fun. And I'm here so nervous. I'm never going to impress them. I'm never going to do this. So like my confidence just dropped to zero. And I got into the room, and it felt like absolutely catastrophic, because I couldn't even say a word, and it was completely awkward. But so they were asking me questions, and it was so awkward because I had this script in my mind of how the interview should go, but that turned out well, it didn't work that way. And I got so nervous at some point I couldn't even say words. And then I told them, you know what? Can you give me a second, please? I'm so nervous. I just need some moments to get back to myself. So that was a powerful moment for me because I actually told them how I really felt. I said, look, I'm so nervous. Please, I need a moment to myself. And they were totally fine with that. And then in those few moments, I said to myself, you know what? Why do I need to just try and impress people? Why do I need to say this script? Why can I just not be myself and say what's on my heart? So I went completely off course and said exactly what was on my heart. You know, I talked about my experiences at the study association, how much that expanded my mind, and all these things really from my heart. And then I regained my confidence. And but then in the end, I asked, because then it was my turn to also ask them questions. So I asked, how do you make sure that what you design really serves people? Because back then it was really important to me that an architecture firm actually does good things for people and for the planet and stuff. So I asked them that question: how do you make sure your designs really, really serve the people that live in the buildings, that use the buildings? And then the guy just said something super strange. He just said, oh, I just take out my phone and I call up a friend and I ask him for advice, and that's it. So that's what he said. And I was like, okay. So I went out of the firm and I knew exactly, you know what, this is not congruent with my heart. This was not honest, and I'm not going to do this. And so I decided the next day is I'm just going to make the leap into what architecture school doesn't teach you, continue writing those stories wherever that's going to lead me, at least for like a month or two, until my money would run out. And a few days later, I got a call from that corporate company saying, oh, we want you to work for us. That was one day after I really decided I was going to make the leap with my business. So I saw that as a test, a test from the universe. How badly do you really want to create your own business? I decided to make the leap. One day later, I get the job offer. And I told the lady, you know what, because I knew it was a test, So I said, you know what, I really appreciate it, but I actually decided to make the leap and create my own business, and maybe we can collaborate in the future. And knowing how people can be sometimes in corporate companies, I was expecting the worst. But she was so cool. She said, you know what, if this is what your heart says, if this is your dream, you should go for it. So I said, okay, this is proof I really need to do this. And then that was kind of the start of my journey, where I started, continued writing. I put myself on YouTube. I actually started to make videos, just like brief 5 to 10 minutes videos of lessons, personal lessons that I had learned and was still in the process of learning back at architecture school. So I made about 10 to 15 YouTube videos. But then I kind of stopped because I decided this was good training, but something was missing. YouTube for some people works really well, but for me, something was not completely right. So another job came into my life by coincidence, which was a freelance job as a TV host for a TV show called Sacred Spaces. And then a few months later or a few weeks later, the ads kept coming up on Facebook and everywhere about writing a book and stuff. And then I thought, you know what, maybe this is exactly what I need right now. I mean, all these ads keep popping up somewhere. Maybe that's a sign for me to actually start writing a book. And that's what I did. I mean, back then, I thought it was going to be an easy thing. And people told me, the most difficult thing is the start. But what I've experienced is actually really full on. It's been such an incredible journey. So I started this book in 2019. And since then, it has been such an inner journey, because when you write a book, it's just such an inner journey. You share your own lessons and your own stories. And while sharing them, you learn as well. You learn again the lessons you're trying to share. You learn them while sharing them. Yeah, and that's what I have been doing so far. So it's been a very, very, very internal journey, really going within, because I'm all about we need to go within. We always seek solutions out there, how to improve architecture, how to, change the world. We always try to change things out there. But the book is, and my journey is all about, no, we need to start inside of ourselves. We need to, look inside of us, transform internally, and then the outside world will also transform. That's kind of a natural law. And so now, since 2022, this year, this journey has kind of is becoming more and more external. So now I'm really building the foundations of my business, getting business certification. Actually, tomorrow, to have my business official, and then by in a few months, by the mid of this year, I would say, I will already I really want to put myself more out there and build more of a community on social media, and create workshops, and hopefully work together with universities, and yeah, see where that all leads. At this point, I really cannot say when this book is finished, because it's an internal journey, and I don't know when that internal journey is finished. But I really want to share more on social media.
It's quite a wonderful journey that you've gone through, and I think, yeah, it always starts from within, right? Like, I think as we, even myself, like, understanding, I'm still in the process of like journeying also, and then similar, I think like listeners have probably heard my story a long time ago, like how I started ARCHLOGBOOK and where is it heading towards. I think
Yeah.
just to share a little bit if the listeners here didn't catch the previous episodes, right? In short, it is how of kind of like my own journey as well, understanding what I want to do with the accounts. And initially it was more like a, passion project to just share things that I didn't learn in school, similar
Yeah.
to what
Yeah.
Aki school didn't teach you. But for
Yeah.
me, it's more technical and more
Yeah.
practice based. But
Yeah.
now it's like I'm trying to make it more broad. Also, initially, also a bit shy to to speak on camera, to talk. Even like now, like I'm still a bit nervous, but it's okay. Anyway, the after I think also the similar journey in terms of coming down to the core of what I'm doing, like why am I doing this? What value can I bring with this venture? So I mean, initially it was very all over the place. So now I've been zoning in towards like this statement of having clarity and confidence for young designers. And I think I also mentioned previously in other platforms on social media, like there's types of clarity, right? There is like personal clarity, there is career clarity, there is technical clarity. It's a lot of different things, and
Yeah.
confidence is also key in especially designers who are starting out, because I also had a similar journey, starting out, and
Yeah.
there's only so much you can learn in school, uh, but then there's this balance that we need to have, right? And also the expectations are sometimes not met, in terms of knowledge, in terms of experience, even the soft skills you need to navigate the career, like communication, even coordination, and even like taking care of ourselves, like how not to burn out. So
Totally.
all of these soft
So
skills,
important.
yeah. And I have started to learn that it's not just about technical skills, right? I mean, that's one part of the pie that we need to
Yeah.
be very clear and to be established on. But we also need to have the soft skills to balance our own careers and to make it a holistic lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I'm seeing, a lot of peers of mine, so like I think some of them have been leaving the industry, trying different things, and I
You
think
said
that,
leaving the industry?
yeah, they
Oh.
left, and then some of them are doing like financial advisors, property agents,
Yeah.
a lot of people in Singapore, especially where I'm based, right? So
Yeah.
there is a problem. I mean, it has been ongoing, but I think ever since the COVID, with the Great Resignation and stuff like this, a lot of our peers, my peers are leaving, or considering to leave, which is a very sad thing because architecture is actually quite interesting to me. Like I'm still
It is.
enjoying what I'm doing in terms of the day job. But that being said, I also worry that many of my peers are considering to leave simply because it's a lifestyle that's not sustainable. Yep. So I think what you are trying to share through your channel and through your platform, working from within, because oftentimes we just share solutions that are external, like how do we improve architecture? Oh,
Yeah,
sustainable technologies. Oh,
yeah,
maybe we practice operations. We improve the software that we can do our practice.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah. I mean, why don't we look inwards? Like what you're trying to say. Look into ourselves and how do we? Why are we doing what we're doing?
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
think that is a question we should ask ourselves.
exactly. It all boils down to self-awareness, knowing yourself. And I think that's why you did this workshop on clarity and confidence, because you did it because it was a
Yeah.
process you went through yourself, right?
Mhm.
And then you were able to share it with others. And we can have all the great technologies out there. We can have all the improved softwares, but if we don't, as you say, if we don't learn how to take care of ourselves, we'll burn out despite those technologies. If we lose our capacity to be compassionate towards each other, technology cannot do much about that. We can have all these softwares to work quicker, to improve our workflows. That's all great, but if we don't learn how to actually work together, work with other people and more interdisciplinary, then we'll just stay in this architecture bubble, which is not effective either. So we need both sides of the coin, the hard skills and the soft skills.
Yeah, I think
Totally
even
agree.
when you talk about machines, we are not machines, right? So we need to complement them. And I mean, we can always talk about like using AI and big data to help us with decisions. But ultimately, it's doing the creativity. You need the intuition, the empathy to really steer the project forward towards the right direction and really impact people's lives. Yeah, I think without humans, I mean, it's not architecture anymore, right? It's basically just construction, I would say. And yeah, so that's a
And
sad thing.
quite mechanistic. There's
Yeah,
nothing with the heart or even the soul, if that's something you believe in.
because when
There's
you
nothing.
quantify
Yeah,
you quantify things like data, right? You quantify and
yeah,
then you make it into like a solution based on data, but there's no human to actually interact with the. For example, if you're designing a public housing project and you don't interact with the future residents, that is one thing that we don't do often as architects even in my current job. So I think sadly this is happening because there's no motivations to do it. I mean, sadly we live in a world where it's like money is running the society, running economy.
yeah.
So time is spent on,
Everything, running
yeah,
everything.
it's the invisible hand, and sometimes we fall prey to it. We we do only consider to do things that are worthwhile in terms of cost and
Yeah,
money and time. Yeah. But what if we really take a step back and again look inwards, right? To
I
see
like that
are
step
we
back.
are our designs really truly impacting the lives of people that we are designing for? Yeah,
Are
I
the
think
designs that we're creating really connecting people?
mm,
And what does it really mean to create environments and spaces that really truly connect people? I believe if you're a designer that cannot connect with other people, if you're a designer and you don't have the capacity to make friends, connect to other people deeply, and if you don't know how to relate, then how are you going to create spaces that connect people? That's impossible. So it all starts with us. And actually, now that we talk about the technology, I actually see, you know, obviously there's a lot of challenges coming up with technology with the fourth industrial revolution, but there
mhm.
is such a beautiful opportunity in that for all of us. So often, we see one side of the coin, which is the challenge, but let's not forget that on the other side is also a massive opportunity.
Mm. Yeah, I think it all depends where we are going together as a fraternity, right? If you only just look at the hard facts of the technology, versus maybe how can we improve the way we live, the way we do things. Maybe like talking about how many hours do we spend to do work, and then do we have enough time to rest? Are these technologies enabling us to take rest? Are these technologies, you know, making our work easier, but also allows us to have time to recharge, right?
Yeah. Mm,
So I think,
that's
yeah, it does
beautiful.
have there's this opportunity, especially for us, and especially we're all like crying out for, we need help in terms of, uh, you know, there's always this old school versus new school mindset of architectural practice.
Mm,
The old school is, you need to suffer for your art. You need
yeah.
to show that you are, passionate about it. Spend more time to
Teaching
do it.
through fear, fear
Yeah, correct.
based.
So yeah, so I'm quite happy to see a lot of young designers, like even my peers or juniors, who are starting to question this
That's
mindset,
that's amazing.
and also pursuing new paths. May not be totally in conventional architecture. Like maybe some of them go towards computational design, or you go towards facade design. So there's a lot of very specialized fields, but these fields are also sustainable because they do not need to spend a lot of hours to do work. It's
Yeah.
just they they're not expected to do everything. Yeah, I think for us, even because I'm working in a big firm per se, but I mean I just changed jobs, so it's kind of interesting for now to learn the technical side, and I'll be given more responsibility to run the projects. So in that sense, I'm still learning a lot, and that's why I'm still staying on and persevering. And I don't really work overtime unless I need to, which is great.
Yeah. That's
So I think
great.
that is uh the reason why I'm still doing what I'm doing, like my day job as well as ARCHLOGBOOK. So,
That's great.
and unless in the future my boss, if you're listening, things continues to pile up more work to me, and I will start to question, like, is this really worth it? Yeah. So I think for designers that are young, it is definitely okay to try joining a big firm. Yeah, I wouldn't oppose to do it, because you learn a lot actually. Only if you are aware of what the job is about, and what you can do and what you cannot do. Yeah, do not just blindly take the whole job scope without knowing what you can actually say no to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boundaries. The power of
You set
boundaries.
boundaries in terms of time, in terms of in you set a certain time to leave. I think even I remember in my previous job, it was quite intense. So what I did was I have to tell myself that I need to leave by 8 o'clock. That's the latest, and I need to
Wow.
eat dinner. Yeah, so that is, I cannot skip dinner, and I cannot. I have to walk out the office to get dinner, not order in, not in. Also, that it was quite tough, and I think that also made me to consider why I should change jobs, and that kind of. That was also why I actually changed jobs, as well as also I didn't really learn much after 2 years. So it's
Yeah.
actually when there's a curve, right? There's always the start of the job is always interesting, and you always learn a lot of stuff that is really helpful to your practice. But after a while, it becomes stagnant and it plateaus. So that is when you
And then you need
consider,
something new. And
yeah,
then you go on to the
and that
next
is human about
opportunity.
that is a human side of us, right? We always want new experiences and new
You want to
learning points.
learn.
Mm,
Definitely. Definitely. And
yeah.
I think, what is coming up in the future can really enable us to explore all these different facets of us. So, for example, most of us might have probably heard that we're kind of, especially through COVID, we're in the starts of the fourth industrial revolution,
Hmm.
which is a blending of the physical, technological, and biological spheres. So it's inevitable that very soon in the future, more and more, our jobs will be replaced by all these different technologies, right? Drones will be able to do the jobs, automation, artificial intelligence. So that could be a real challenge because there's no doubt about this that there will be a lot of job shortages. and we need to be very honest about this, there will be a lot of job shortages. It's even estimated that by the year of 2030, 85% of the jobs that exist today won't exist anymore. 85%. That's in like
Just a big number.
that's in 80 years. 85% of today's jobs will not exist anymore. So a lot of jobs will be, cut, and a lot of people will not have jobs. So, and I see this big opportunity in there because, on the one hand, technology is replacing us, but actually, if we can start and ask a different question and ask, is this maybe benefiting us in some way? What if these technologies can actually do the work much better than us? What if we let them do the jobs much better than us, much more efficiently, effectively, whatever? What if it gives us actually more time to care more about our health and well-being? What if through technology we can actually shorten the work week? What if we can actually work less hours and have more time to, to do what we like? What if we use it as a real great opportunity to create new jobs that we're really, really passionate about, So this whole technological shift that's coming up really enables us to actually do what we love. That's what I really believe.
Yeah,
Because quite frankly said, if your job position is replaceable, then it's not a good job for you anyway, because a job that is really meaningful to you, a job that really aligns with your heart, is not replaceable, because you will be so good at it, and there's this human component that no machine can ever replace. So that's the huge opportunity of this great challenge coming up, I think. And to actually, work on the soft skills, work on things like how can we work together with more empathy and compassion? How can we take care of our well-being more? And how can we do what we love? How can we maybe, if we won't get a job, maybe we can ask ourselves, well, maybe it's time to create our own jobs. Inside of every person is a book. Inside of every person is a business, like 100%, Inside of every person is, we all have such potential inside of us. It's just about having the access to, information on how to challenge our beliefs. And that's where our accounts come in, just to serve people with, different knowledge and different things. But yeah, there's so much good stuff coming up. We can literally connect architecture to all these different other things that we would have never thought. And I actually, before hopping onto this podcast, I actually thought that's where so much pain stems from in our industry with the young people. That's, I think, why most people switch, because they don't see another way, We think this is the way to do architecture, or I have this job. If I lose this job, it means I need to leave architecture completely. But that's not true at all. Architecture is so big. So it's really about expanding our brains, I think.
I think it's also interesting to note that like we humans have different sides of us, right? We only not just do architecture, but even when I do architecture, I do social media, I edit videos, I do all these different crazy things, and that all makes me, right? And I think every single one of us has like hobbies or even like a second alternate passion to pursue. So even the technologies that we have in the future, right? If these technologies can give us more time, I also highly suggest that we take this extra time to pursue the passions that we wanted to try apart from architecture.
Exactly.
So it's like it complements architecture, because maybe the new passion can inform the way we design buildings and spaces for people, or maybe architecture can inform the other passion that we have. So
Yeah.
it is bi-directional, and I think we shouldn't shut this other passion away simply because we do not have the capacity to do it, and or like forced in a sense to solely focus on architecture because they have no time, but more about realizing the importance of pursuing as many passions as you want at any point in time.
And that's the problem. That's back to the same problem that I see with so many architects and so many students, where so much pain comes from. And I've been there as well, and so much pain was there. We put ourselves in a box. As simple as that. We put ourselves into an architecture box. So we have these beliefs in our brain that says, if I study architecture, I need to become an architect. If I study architecture, I need to design buildings. Or even, this is architecture, but this is not architecture. I need to do something that is recognizable in the architecture industry, Or if I am interested in this, it means I need to quit architecture. These are all limiting beliefs. So if we are aware of that, we can say, oh, you know what? We can actually confront those beliefs and change them and say, oh, just because I studied architecture doesn't mean I need to become an architect. Just because I studied architecture doesn't mean I need to design buildings. Designing buildings is one face of architecture. It's one out of many faces. We can say everything is architecture. There's an Austrian architect long ago. His name is Hans Hollein. And he has a quote. He said, everything is architecture. And I literally believe that, because everything is connected on the most fundamental level. We live in such a connected world where it's quite an illusion, and that's what our mind creates. It creates these fields. This is psychology. This is neuroscience. This is architecture. This is fashion. This is photography. They're all separate fields. But this is what the mind creates. The mind creates these boxes. But in a more fundamental reality, all of these fields are connected. There's no clear boundary. So if we can start to think a bit more in that interconnected way, we will just tap into such a vast field of opportunities and possibilities. Because that's truly the truth, actually, that we live in a quantum field that is full of opportunities. And it's literally our brain standing in a way of seeing those and attracting those opportunities.
Yeah, when you talk about limiting beliefs, so what do you think is the number one way to break out the belief? What do you recommend young designers who are struggling with this? I'm not sure whether I should do this, or to leave my job and to pursue this. And what do you think you should start to do?
Well, I think it all boils down to awareness, self-awareness. So we need to distinguish here between a doubt and a limiting belief. Because a limiting belief is something deeply in the subconscious. We cannot directly access it. But if we get to know ourselves really closely, we can ask ourselves question about, what we believe about the architecture industry. What do you believe about the architecture industry? Do you think studying architecture, or do you believe being an architect is really tough? Do you believe the architecture industry is really hard for women? We might see evidence for all these things, but ultimately those are beliefs. So another belief. So we can find out what kind of beliefs we have in our subconscious by asking us questions. What do I believe that architecture has to be a certain way? Do I believe that if I go into jewelry design, is that still architecture? And your brain will go, no. If I go into jewelry design, that's not architecture. So they have a limiting beliefs. Why is it not architecture? Why does it need to be architecture even?
Is that why do you need to do architecture? If it's your passion to do jewelry design, for example,
exactly.
why hesitate, right? That should be the
Exactly.
question you ask.
Yeah, exactly. Your parents might rebel, but you're not living your life for your parents, So, of course, we also have deep beliefs about our parents, our friends, the silent expectations, what they think they want us to do and stuff. But if we go really deep and ask ourselves those questions, some will resonate and we will find out what we hold in our brain. So that's really the first step of knowing, that's what I'm holding in my brain. And that's literally the most important thing, to become aware of the belief and to just sit with it, to not even want to try and change it, but just let it stir in your brain for as long as it needs to stir. And then you will see slowly with time you will see. So the more you can accept it, the more you can become aware of it, the more it will actually start to dissolve, because you will go like, oh, like jewelry design, I love it, like, yes, maybe I will not go into traditional architecture. Should I go into jewelry design? Like, just hold that in your brain. And the longer you let that stir in your brain, the more insights will come to you. And the more, I mean, obviously, there's such a long framework to how to dissolve beliefs on the deepest level. And I go really into depth in my book. But this is like the first real step to just become aware of what's in your brain, what kind of belief you hold. And that's literally it, to become aware and to be able to accept that it's there. That's the most important step, to accept that you have that belief without wanting to change it. So that's one thing, limiting beliefs. And then on the other hand, we have doubt. So doubt can be dealt with in so many ways. And one thing, and that's actually what my second chapter is about in the book. Doubt on the one hand, so we want to overcome our doubts, and that's totally fine. But actually, the way I see it is that, doubt is not something we need to fight, because doubt means that we question ourselves. We are unsure about something. We are uncertain about who we are. And that's not per se a bad thing, because what doubt brings is it gives us good questions. If you didn't have any doubts, Gabriel, zero. If I didn't have any doubts, zero. Would we even grow? If we were totally comfortable with everything, if we had no doubts whatsoever, would we even grow? Like, if everything was so amazing, if everything was so clear and certain, doubt is such a catalyst to change, and such a catalyst to get to know ourselves on a deeper level. So if you have a doubt coming up, like, architecture is such a tough profession. I think that's something that many of us believe. And I also believe that, I have believed that in the past much more than I do now. So if we say, oh, architecture is so tough and I don't know what to do after my studies, we can hold that doubt and see what question there is in this doubt. We can go like, oh, well, is architecture really tough? And then we can ask ourselves, well, is there a way to possibly thrive in the industry in a way, that it lets me do what I love to do while also taking care of my well-being? So it's all about reframing that doubt. It's all about, how can I thrive in the architecture industry in a way that I can do what I love, And just asking that question. It's literally about reframing the doubt, not being afraid of the doubt, actually embracing it wholeheartedly, and reframing it and asking that question. And then most importantly, living the question. So not wanting to answer it with your brain, because the brain has its place, but it's not the whole scope of what we have available. So, you can let life bring you the answer. You can live the question. That's what it means to live a question. You ask the question. You don't answer it. You just ask it. Ask it every day, and then life will, give you answers. Like a question that I'm asking myself these days so much, and I don't have an answer to this question. I ask myself every day, how can I be of greatest service to the whole? How can I be of greatest service to the whole? I just ask myself that every day without wanting to answer it. And, I ask it, and then things pop into my head. And that's how answers come. So doubt is really, sometimes doubt can be very annoying. So there's different techniques to get rid of them. But on the other hand, it really depends on what kind of doubt it is. On the other hand, doubt is so fruitful. So my advice right now to you on the other side watching this, don't fight your doubts, embrace them, actually harness them and use them to discover yourself on a much more deeper level. Challenge your doubts and ask yourself really good questions and see where that takes you.
I've always remembered this like statement that I always make choices by. So it's basically when you if there's nobody that will judge you on what you're gonna do. What will you do? If you cannot fail, what will you do? So all of these things that I once thought was not possible, like making a podcast or like even starting a Instagram account. All these things I never thought I would be firstly enjoying it, secondly doing pretty well, I guess. And
And
it's
I'm writing a book. Like, it's so
yeah,
crazy,
like
you
who
know?
and imagine if you did it, if people told you that who are you to write a book? Like how
Oh,
how
and
will
that
you?
voice is still inside of me, you know? Like,
Yeah,
Ines, who are you to write a book? Like, you were never a good writer at school, you know? All these doubts still ring in my head.
mm,
And that's when it comes to, sometimes you just have to not listen to your doubts. So that's like another technique. Your head will just create all these stories, but you just don't listen to them. Like, easy, they're like
mm.
clouds. So let them come by and then let them go like a cloud, literally. But yeah, I totally agree. Like, look where we are now. And, years back, we would have never imagined that this could and would even happen. And who knows what's going to happen in 5 years, like where we will be in 5 years or 3 years or 10 years.
Yeah, I'm actually excited for my next part of the journey. So I'm trying to join like local organizations for architecture. So I realized that actually I've been uh like always complaining about how things are in Singapore, but recently I also have realized that I need to be a part of the associations that are in Singapore. So who are
That's
actually
so great.
trying their best to. I think honestly they're sleeping, but I think previously right now there's some movement that's starting. So I'm trying to be a part of that movement in
That's
Singapore, for example.
great. That's
Yeah, I
great.
think that I mean my wish is to make sure that firstly the knowledge is shared like globally. So actually architecture is complex because it firstly it's a lot of things to know, like technical wise. But secondly it's also a lot of like soft skills that you don't really know and you can't really teach them in school. But I can share concepts of how to coordinate, for example, your coordination and communication. How do you do that in an architectural context? That can be shared in a very easy, bite-sized manner. And I think that 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 vision I had is currently stirring me and making me excited about joining these organizations and not to worry about what others may think about me, and but also to just put my face out there and to say, hey, I want to help.
That's
Is
so
there
brave.
any way I can share my knowledge, be it through my
Wow.
own platform or be it through the organization to link up
Wow.
with juniors who are
Wow.
facing the same issues. And I I believe that our generation is gonna be the one that's gonna solve architecture practice and its problems and also embracing the opportunities that technology brings. So we are the agents of change per se. And I
Yes,
think the
definitely.
more we embrace this role of we can make things happen, I think the more architecture will improve.
And I think what you said is beautiful because when it comes to all these global issues, often we approach it from, an angle of fear. Oh my God, we need to do this. Such a big burden, climate change and this and that. And yes, it has its place, but what did you just say? Like, we can do this. So just saying that is much more from like a place of possibility and a place of potential. We can do this. This is a challenge. This is an adventure. We can actually solve these problems. We can do all these amazing things, take architecture to all these great places, create these new systems and structures, expand what it means to be an architect.
Hmm.
All these amazing things are waiting for us. So I think if we see it more from that perspective, then, and I can even feel it in my heart, it sounds fun. It's like, yes, yes, I really want to join this movement. We can do this together. I think that's the way to go. And, like you, being courageous and saying, oh, whatever, I'm just going to put myself out there and approach these organizations, come from an honest, genuine place. Look, I have stuff that I can share. I have knowledge that I want to pass on. How can I join you guys? How can we join forces and spread the knowledge? I think that's beautiful. Good on you.
Thanks. So I guess those listening take heart and also try to, yeah, like what you said, internalize the doubt. you don't need to answer it right away. I mean, we're all trained, especially in our generation, we are always wanting answers quickly, like due to instant gratification. But I think the advice from you is really great, like to really hold the thought. and
Yes.
and usually fear is actually helpful. When we are trained to survive, it's a very basic biological need, right? And fear also reminds us of certain dangers, right? But sometimes this fear is actually it you need to rationalize it, right? And you don't need to answer it straight away. And sometimes, yes, it's unfamiliar. It is unfamiliar. That's why the
It
body is
is
telling
very
you,
unfamiliar.
yeah, that's why the
Yes.
body is telling you like, hey, I don't think you should do this because you have not done this before.
Yeah.
And that is fear. That is doubt, right? Then that's I think so once we realize and be again self-aware that this is fear talking to you because you have not done this before and you are worried about how others think of you and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So but we are in control to say no, I want to try. And even though if I fail, I I might have learned something or one thing or two. And I can improve the way I do it and try again. And who knows, this may be my new path in life. And if I never try it now, when were you going to try it?
The failure is only if you don't try, you know? Even if you try and you fail, it's not a failure because the success is that you tried. That's the most important thing. I have this really nice quote from um, the poet Rainer Maria Rilke that I would like to
Mm,
read.
sure.
I'm actually mentioning it in my book, and I find it beautiful. He says, "Be patient towards all that is unsolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer." And that's
It's a
how it
very good
works,
quote.
you know.
Yeah.
We don't
Mm,
we don't need to answer the questions. You just ask the question and let life give you the answer in its own natural time. There's a natural timing to everything, you know, as you just said, we want everything quick and this and that, but there's a natural timing. So if we can trust that flow, ask the question, we can totally relax and trust that the answers we need will come to us at exactly the time that we're ready for it. And in that is just peace, you know?
I think with that, we come to a very good end to the conversation. Yeah, so for those
Peace.
listening, young designers, graduates, just take whatever Ines and I shared, to really internalize, see if your heart is, excited about things. Maybe you have been putting things aside for a long time. Maybe you are struggling between two choices, architecture and non-conventional architecture. Maybe you are at a job right now and you're struggling and, really on the brink of like breaking down. So I highly encourage that take a step back, take a break and really internalize these feelings that you have. Sometimes the body also tells you like through maybe you're not feeling well, This also could be a sign that you need to think about what's happening inside us, inside you, inside all of us. And yeah, just I hope the best for everybody. Take the path less traveled, I would say.
Yes.
Cause
Yes.
go for it. And yeah, I think that'd be a good close. Anything to share last words, Ines?
Um, sounds super cheesy, but it's so important. Follow your heart, you know. Don't go with what your mind thinks what architecture should be. Go with what your heart wants and connect architecture to all those amazing other things you're interested in. I think that's the key.
That's right. Okay. Thank you so much, Ines, for the time.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
guys.
All
Okay.
right. Take care.
See you.